couple of schoolboys from MIT were trying to make some pocket money, and they worked out a card counting formula. Then, they put on human makeup and blended into the casinos, only winning and not losing. This led to major casinos blacklisting them and denying them access. This story is true. John, a poor student, received an acceptance letter from Harvard a few days ago, but he was very distressed because he could not afford the exorbitant tuition fee of $300,000. He went to the principal to apply for a scholarship, but the principal said that he did not have any outstanding experience and rejected his request. One day in math class, the professor asked his classmates a classic probability problem. The whole room was silent. Only John Corner confidently raised his hand. John's meticulous thinking and clear logic shocked the professor. He believed that this was the person he was looking for. In the evening, John's Corner is called to a small classroom where there are 4 other students, all of whom are popular in the school, including John's Corner's goddess crush. It turns out that the professor has used the teaching event to identify students with a talent for math and formed a blackjack card counting team who go to Las Vegas every weekend to make money. Not long ago, one of the team members got a job at Google, and now John Corner is the perfect candidate for the opening. Although John Corner wanted to turn it down, he thought about the astronomical tuition fee of up to $300,000. He chose the shortcut and began special training. They only play blackjack, and the rules are simple. The higher the card count, the better, but no more than 21. The professor and the school teacher worked out a mathematical formula to be able to calculate the unplayed cards based on the cards that were played. In Vegas, they divide up the work, each pretending not to know the other and spreading out to play at different tables. When the odds of winning at the table become too great, they signal John to come over. They used a whole new language of signals, backhands for come, touching the corners of his eyes for a second look, and stroking his hair for a quick retreat. The professor hadn't been wrong. John learned in a few days what others had to learn in months. The professor gave John an address and told him to warm up at his home casino first. Everything was going well for John when a group of people suddenly appeared and took him away. It turns out that this is also the professor's arrangement, wanting to see if John can still remember the points under the panic.
What's the count?
Plus 18!
The professor is satisfied that he is the smartest student he has ever seen. The gang arrives in Las Vegas to start the money-sucking mode. The professor prepares new identities for the 5 of them to blend into the casino. John's first time in the field, he shows a remarkable talent for math, knowing the card algorithms backwards and forwards. He and his companions work flawlessly together. He constantly battles at the various card tables, winning money as easily as he picks it up. He goes to the school dormitory and hides the money in the ceiling, then lied to his mom that he had applied for a scholarship. Mom was proud of his brilliant son. Soon John went from a shy youth to a well-traveled veteran. At the poker table, he was on fire, playing bigger and bigger. His savings had long exceeded $300,000. Rows of banknotes littered the ceiling, and he even sparked love with his goddess. However, the more one gets, the more one loses. John is obsessed with making money. He grows estranged from his 2 former best friends and screws up the science competition they have been preparing for together for a year. Seeing John's absent-mindedness, his best friends had to kick him out of the competition team. After the breakup, John takes his emotions to Las Vegas. This time, he blunders at the poker table, ignoring his partner's retreat signals and turning card counting into gambling, losing over $200,000 in one night. John is berated by his professor, who demands compensation for the losses and leaves the team. The relationship between the 2 breaks down, and John begins to encourage the others to go it alone with him, believing that they can get a bigger share of the money without the professor. So, they head to Vegas again to make a killing. However, the professor reports them to Jake. John is puzzled, but is eventually caught and beaten by Jake. It turns out that the professor had once won a large sum of money by counting cards here and was therefore blacklisted. He returns to his dorm with a bruised nose to find a letter taped to his door that says the professor canceled his grades, preventing him from graduating. To make matters worse, the professor also stole $300,000 in tuition money hidden in the ceiling. Overnight, John loses everything, but he clears his head. He finds his best friend and confesses everything. His best friend understands and says that they would have done the same thing when faced with money and beauty. Penniless, John decides to approach the professor to admit his guilt and apologize, hoping to join the team again. The professor shows tolerance and generosity. As long as there is money, everything is fine. They decide to do a big job and wash their hands of it. The gang came to the casino in disguise after learning the ropes. This time, the professor himself came out, relying on the strong combination of John and the professor. They made a killing at the poker table. The chips are stacked higher and higher, and in less than 3 hours, they make $3 million. Soon, however, Jake came storming in. John puts his chips in a garbage bag and starts to run away. On the way, the professor asked for the chips and agreed to meet him at the hotel. However, the professor gets into his car, but tells the driver to head for the airport, where he wants the money all to himself. When he opens the bag, he realizes that the chips have been replaced with chocolates. He immediately realized that he had been tricked by John. What's worse, the driver was one of Jake's men. It turns out that this is all a setup by John and Jake. The last time John was caught by Jake, he made a deal with Jake to help him lure out the professor. And during that escape, the chips in the bag were swapped by the goddess for chocolates. While Jake was away, John's two best friends took the opportunity to start a winning spree in Vegas, winning millions overnight. John then gave Jake $1 million for an early retirement. A few days later, John approached the principal. He told the principal about his experiences during this time, almost like a dazzling resume from a movie. The principal was dumbfounded.